And we're live. fanboy modeling school. Welcome to the Fanboy Modeling School. I am the Fat Mantis, now in HD. I'm here with my man
Steve, also in HD. What's going on, everybody?
I'm living the dream. I will tell you, is it me or are the days getting longer?
That might be you, brother, but tell us what's going on. Tell us your feelings.
I just feel like all I do is work and work and work and work and work and then throw up a little and then work some more. And maybe if I'm lucky, I get to bed before 2 a.m.
So tell us about the throwing up. What symptoms are you experiencing prior to the vomit?
It's just working a day job.
Oh, okay.
It's just working a day job. How are you feeling about the whole situation? This whole work situation?
You know what? Work is work, man. And again, I try to leave it there as best I can. But yeah, you know, it creeps up on you like an X. It comes back out of nowhere, bro. It comes back out of nowhere.
Bitch is horny. I tell you, Shaolin Icebox are in the house. Yes,
what up,
sir. We got Minnie Pearl over on the Twitter saying hello all, and she also follows up with the days are definitely getting longer. For those who didn't know, that is Dragon Lady, the one and only.
What up, Dragon?
What up? And and thank you for everybody stopping on in a midweek, the hump day. Fanboy Modeling School. Here we bring you today's best headlines and pop culture references, and we rip it to shreds. And so, brother, do you have any honorable mentions?
You know what, man? I gotta say that my honorable mention, man, is going to be a snooze fest to everyone involved. But you know,
you're gonna talk about MMA again, aren't you?
No. I'm not going to talk about a man's sport on a woman's podcast. No,
it is not that you. It's not that you talk about MMA. You talk about it too technically. No one can follow.
So I talk about it accurately instead of being like, just bleed, bro.
You should be like, and then that motherfucker did the whammo, and he said, blow. It was over.
Kendrick Lamar has responded to everyone's favorite or most notorious light-skinned Drake in a diss track called Euphoria, which has three different diss segments. And I was listening to it today on the way home to prepare for the show. And I have to tell you, man, very well put together song. Kendrick is not lacking in talent, but yeah, man, I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever. I see what he's doing. He is pitting culture versus commerce. Someone else, another commentator, pointed that out as well.
That is a good line, though. Culture versus commerce, and that is well said about the two of them.
Yeah, it's definitely pushing that narrative, and I'm not mad at it because I've pushed that narrative about Drake. You know, I've never made my feelings a secret in regards to his stature or his status, where he stands according to me in hip hop. But yeah, Kendrick really leans into it, man, and hit him with some heavy shots. And now we got to see, you know, how Drake responds. But we were robbed of what I was actually wanting for the summer, man. I wanted J. Cole versus Kendrick. And, you know, J. Cole took the higher road out.
Oh, my God. Here's what I'm saying. If it's a rap battle, that's not a higher road. It's a higher road if you avoid, say, smashing someone's head in.
Right.
But all we're asking him to do is write a damn song.
All we're asking you to do is say some things about another person.
All we're asking him to do is to do his job. Let's put it like that. That's all I want from him, man.
100%. But yeah, interesting stuff, though, man.
I think something that's really funny is the cease and desist letter that Drake just got because from Tupac Shakur's family.
Oh, from the estate of one Mr. Shakur. Okay.
Yeah, because he used an AI recording
Yes,
of him in one of his freestyle.
Yes, he did.
And how could you be so stupid?
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think about him using AI bots to get at Kendrick?
It's fun. Okay, for a second. Is he so pathetic that he doesn't have a crew, so he has to make one up? Then you're gonna take one of the most famous rappers of all time and pretend like he's down with you, as if a living Tupac. We all know he's down in Cuba, but let's say he was alive in the white man sense, right? Do you think that he would be on a Drake track?
No, absolutely not.
That's ridiculous.
Here's the crazy thing about it. Kendrick Lamar, can you just look something up for me? Does he have a feature with Taylor Swift?
Yeah. Oh, yes, he does. I can actually tell you right now. That's a Taylor.
Yeah.
That's a Taylor song. I believe he's on Bad Blood.
Now, would Tupac be on a Taylor Swift song?
Please tell me no. But his estate.
No. But Tupac would never associate with a Taylor Swift. He might have coitus with her. He might make the beast with two backs with her.
Actually, he might, and then brag about it, right?
Yeah, he would bone her for sure, but he wouldn't make a song with her. So there's enough of this shit to go around. But here's where we really gotta lean into this shit, my brother. Kendrick Lamar versus Drake is the most disappointing rap beef ever because it's completely one-sided, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to roll Kendrick because I'm gonna say that this diss was authentically hip-hop and he took it to places where you would expect him to take it as a wordsmith. It really is punching down. And I don't care what anyone says about it, man. It is punching down, and I'm not taking shots at Kendrick for that. Kendrick is just the better MC. The fight I was looking for is the fight we didn't get. Let me wax philosophical about great MMA matchups that never happened. One of my favorites that never happened because John Jones was out at 2 a.m, as he should be, in New Mexico, keeping the streets safe from pregnant women who shouldn't be driving around at 2 a.m. It's not his fault. John's just out being himself.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So he plowed into a woman who was 9 months pregnant.
Who shouldn't have been on the road at all hours.
And so,
what kind of mother is that?
And so he fled the scene and then returned only to grab his Viagra and his weed. But and because of that's real stuff, folks. Look it up, by the way. Because of that, we never got John Jones versus Anthony Rumble Johnson. Instead, what we got was Daniel Cormier versus Anthony Rumble Johnson, the fight no one asked for. And now we got Kendrick Lamar versus Drake, the beef that I don't care about.
You don't like DC?
Don't. Huh? Oh, I didn't like Daniel Cormier for many moons, but now I've grown to appreciate him as a dad, a businessman, as a man in general. Daniel Cormier is a stand-up dude.
I agree. I do like him more since he's become an announcer.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of understand him a little more, right?
Yeah.
Before he was the fat guy who fought in MMA.
I always felt bad for DC because he was just like the man screaming logic into the madness. He's like, you guys are booing me. John Jones is the worst thing that's ever happened to the sport. And people were booing him and clapping for John Jones. And that's when you knew that the troll nation had finally arrived. This beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake is completely one-sided, man. And I know you and I have had our friendly back and forths about Drake's involvement and his level in hip-hop, but I think it just goes to show that everyone's going to ride with Kendrick because it's Kendrick and he represents what they think is culture versus commerce, which is the argument I've been making all this time, hasn't it been, my brother? It's like Drake is seen as a commercial entity outside of hip-hop. I wouldn't quite go as far as putting him as a Kid and Play. Well, no, Kid and Play were firmly planted in hip-hop for many years. So I wouldn't go as far as putting Drake.
No, actually, they're not as fake as they seem. You look at those haircuts, they never seem like, you're like, this is some corporate shit. But no, they were just people in the early 90s doing it.
Yo, House Party is the most hip-hop shit I've ever seen.
The original, I can't believe they remade that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, completely idiocy, man. But that's my honorable mention for the evening, man. I do want to talk about some stuff, man, just between you and I as bros, man.
Before we move on, real quick,
Shaolin
says Kendrick looking like a real bully on that track.
For show.
And of course, we got Bex just coming in here. You soggy
Tommy. What's up, Bex?
Fangirls for fan boys. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, Bex? Since Queen of Toxicity, and when I say she's the Queen of Toxicity, Bex enjoys a toxic interaction. Bex, you're in here now. Bex, was the first person, second after Cincy, when J. Cole apologized for making the diss track, which, by the way, I listened to again. 7-minute drill. If I had to put it in the order of this whole beef right now, if J. Cole in the fight, it'd be his diss track, then Kendrick's. No, I'm sorry. His diss track, and then Drake's first response, and then Kendrick's. But now I'm left talking about fucking Drake and Kendrick Lamar, bro.
Oh, I love how Shaolin says, Kid and Play were legit plants, but I still love them, and they did a lot for the culture. Here's the thing. I don't think they were plants. However, I definitely do think they took bad advice from executives at the record label.
100%. But, I mean, one thing you got to remember, man, everyone was trying to get the bag back then, right? And it was for a long time, hip-hop was, artists weren't getting the bag because of things like, predatory behaviors from people who wouldn't sponsor them. Just think about it. Run DMC never got a Adidas check, right? They never got any money from these guys, man.
And nowadays that would never fly. That would.
No, not with Kanye running around policing the streets.
Kanye out there. I want to hit up an honorable mention. Now I'm gonna mess up what school it is, because you know how all these colleges, they have different initials and stuff, and so obviously we're gonna talk about the riots. I'm sorry, I mean peaceful protests that are going on throughout America right now.
I'm sorry. Liberation protests.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But one school, they tried to cut down the school's flag, and it was a big flag, and a bunch of fraternity brothers went under the flag and prevented it from touching the ground. These guys, it's like 15 of them holding up the flag. People were pelting them with like food and sodas and drinks and bottles, and these kids just stood there in a God bless America moment. It's like, it was epic, right? And because they were so great to do this, people have started a Kickstarter to throw them an epic party. The goal was $50,000, and they have already exceeded that in like a day or two.
So what I hear you saying is that people donated a bunch of money to rape culture.
You're lucky we're not in the same studio right now. You are lucky we're not in the same studio. But whatever, I don't know them. They could be, for all I know. But all I know is that they love this country, and therefore I need to buy them a beer.
I'm taking shots at fraternity culture, which I know is going to get this man going early, man.
Beck says, I do love me some toxic Shaz.
There you go.
Yeah, that is patriotic, and that's beautiful. And honestly, when I saw that on Brett Cooper's an episode of Brett Cooper, I had a tear in my eye.
Oh, Brett Cooper.
I said, God bless America. And it's actually funny. Brett Cooper says that if they throw that party, if they're actually going to use that money on throwing a party, she's going to make sure she's at the party. So I'm sure that's going to get a lot of press, or a lot of YouTube press.
Oh, it's going to get a lot of press, especially when she's filing charges the next day.
Oh my goodness, this got real dark. I apologize. Well, for everything, for absolutely everything, guys. Any other honorable mentions?
Yeah, I just want to wax philosophical. Just like I was saying before, two bros here, man. Isn't it strange to you, man? Isn't it strange to you that San Diego Comic-Con is on its way? It's right around the corner, brother. And the buzz is coming back, man. Now, I want to ask
you, believe it when I see it.
Well, you believe it, man. Believe it, because people are buzzing about it. Or at least commentators, and then people in the chats with these commentators, right?
Marvel's dead. There, I called it.
Listen, man. You said you called it. We'll see.
Right now, all the young people in America are fucking a corpse right now. Your bitch is dead. She was drowned a few Disney Plus series ago.
Wow.
Right now, you want to get one good bang in before you call the coroner. I get it.
Ooh, talk about going dark, man. Necrophilia.
To answer your question, Dragon Lady, you might be the only one on Twitch. We're getting a lot of comments over on YouTube.
So, just like, so San Diego Comic-Con is right around the corner, brother, and with the buzz around what's going on, the good work that's going on over at X-Men 97, obviously the buzz around Deadpool and Wolverine. And then this brings me to my actual honorable mention, but because I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to get too jazzed up. A lot of Blade buzz going on right now. The Blade streets are on fire right now.
Can I semi quote Kanye West for a second?
Sure, why not?
The MCU doesn't care about black people.
MCU loves black people.
No, they freaking don't, because they always make them look like chumps.
They love black women.
And the day that they make Blade look cool, oh my god, they didn't even let him be at the end credit scene of Eternals, just his voice.
Yeah, that was wild. That was wild. I
Totally.
But yeah, so a lot of buzz around the rumor mill, and actually all but confirmed that Wesley Snipes will be making a cameo in the multiverse saga as Blade, representing his universe. Wanted to get your thoughts on that. You were talking to Shalyn and I in the group chat about it the other day, and you just, I go ahead.
I think if it happens, I will show up for it, and I will love it, and it will be amazing. Right. I hope they have the foresight to do such a thing. Once again, I'm hating on Marvel right now, not because I've always been a hater. It's because they crossed me. They crossed me
right.
for the last time.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, it takes foresight and it takes smarts to do something like that.
Yes.
And they seem to be lacking of smarts lately. So I hope they do have the foresight to, because this is an easy win. This is an easy win.
Easy layup right there, bro. You get Wesley Snipes in there, man. You get him meeting up with Mahershala Ali. To get him finally on the screen as Blade would be such an easy win. But again, like you said, Marvel likes to take the path of most resistance.
Right. They literally killed Fantastic. As soon as they had good buzz about Fantastic Four, they literally killed it. No one's going to trust that movie anymore.
You know what's crazy, man? When I was driving home today, I was thinking about when we went to go see Black Adam. Do you remember that night, man?
I do, though. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And I was actually thinking, man, for as panned as that movie was, I've watched it 5 times and I've enjoyed it every time I've watched it.
I like that movie. I think that's perfectly fine. Here's what I'm saying. Is it Endgame? No. Is anything really Endgame? Like, hardly any movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would say that I would say it's easily a 90.
Yeah, bro. And I just remember the audience we were with. Everyone had such a great time.
Yeah.
People were clapping, cheering when Henry Cavill came on the screen. And I was just like, man, is there a point where the minority of people who want to go enjoy this movie is far outweighed by the bubble that even you and I have participated in creating, which is the anti-superhero, it doesn't live up to my standards, which we have the right to feel that way. But I remember walking out of Black Adam, I was like, man, I had a great time. And I woke up the next day and people were shitting on, like, just completely shitting on the movie.
So here's my understanding of it. And so in my world, in my little bubble, people who actually saw it enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And all the people who were shitting and hating on it, in my opinion, it's tribalism. There are people who hate DC and DC movies no matter what they do. They could give you the greatest movie ever. These people will hate on it. And unfortunately, that's the majority of the comic book viewing audience. They have turned on that franchise. So there was no way any movie was going to do well. I'll give you an example why this is absolutely true. There is no reason on earth why the Batman didn't make $1 billion. It didn't make $1 billion. It made like $700 million, which is decent, but it's not hitting that club. And you're like, it's Batman. Batman always makes $1 billion. And why? You know why it is? It's because people are at a point they just hate everything DC.
Did the Dark Knight Rise make $1 billion?
Yes. Rises and the one before Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises both broke $1 billion.
Well, yeah,
that was like a decade ago.
Yeah, but one of them was a good movie, and one of the two of those was. I think
they were both good movies.
I think they definitely shot.
Here's what I'm saying. Rises was like the not as good movie. I admit that, but it wasn't. It was not bad in any way. It was certainly.
Man, I don't know, that death scene by Ra's al Ghul's daughter, that actress, that took me.
I'm gonna say this about Nolan. I love Nolan.
Yeah.
I think that he might be, and no offense to anyone, remember, I love all people. I think he's a homosexual. because he does not pick attractive women for his films. Like, once again, he had Anne Hathaway. Don't get me wrong, she's cute or whatever. She's all right. As Catwoman, that is the worst casting I've ever seen in my life.
Bro, that might be the hardest bar I've heard all day. Yo, so
He doesn't know what hot or attractive women are, so he's just like, he just throws them in there. He's just like, do stuff.
keep moving around. Try not to pull focus.
He's like, people like the devil wears Prada, so let's make her Catwoman. I mean, I would have rather seen Halle Berry of Alias.
but here's the crazy thing, man. So switching back to the Blade thing, man, and talking about the misses of Marvel, not Miss Marvel, but the many misses that Marvel has had. Just thinking about this, man, it is really an easy layup in the formula we discussed last week, man. In fact, it's so easy they don't even have to do anything. They don't have to do what they're used to doing. All they have to do is say, oh, wow, people really enjoy this property. Okay, roll that in. People enjoy that property. Roll that in. The easiest layup Marvel has right now is Deadpool leading into somehow bringing X-Men 97, that universe, and then we completely do away with Kang because, like I said from the beginning of this shit, Kang in no way, shape, or form had anything to do with Secret Wars. Not the original, not the fucking remake.
This is what I've been saying. This is what people don't understand. Everyone's just like, well, if they get rid of Kang, what are they going to do for Secret Wars? He was supposed to be defeated in Kang Dynasty, and it's clear that Doctor Doom and or the Beyonderer are going to be the villains of Secret Wars. They weren't going to keep Kang around forever.
I hope, man.
It's crazy. But yo, honestly, from what you said, however, here's what I'm saying. Deadpool... here's what it is. I don't think live action X-Men is gonna be X-Men 97.
It should be.
Well, I think they're gonna do a very close universe to it that's very similar, but they're not gonna be the same universe. And the first reason why is X-Men 97 takes place in the year 1997.
Listen to me.
So that doesn't
comic book years are irrelevant.
Right. They go all over the place. But you see what I'm saying? And then also, do we really want the X-Men 97 to be dragged down by the MCU's history, which isn't always good?
You got to look at it as an Alcoholics Anonymous type of analogy. They could be the sponsor for the MCU, bringing it back from the depths of alcoholism and heroin addiction. Right?
Those cartoon characters are going to be doing some heavy lifting. Some heavy ass lifting. They're like, where's Iron Man? They're like, oh, we don't have him anymore. Like, what's the fucking point, bro? Like, yo, you know what was on TV the other night? It was beautiful. I sat down for a quick meal. It was like, and it was on TBS or something. It was like one of those channels. Winter Soldier.
Oh, still a classic.
And I literally say that there's like no 5-minute interval, which is unpleasant. It is always a fun, good movie. Something always interesting. Even when they're just talking, I'm like, I'm having fun right now.
Yeah.
and Marvel just can't do that anymore.
No. And you know what? It's also Marvel's a victim of reality, which is aging actors, right? Robert Downey Jr. could not play that role forever. Actually, no, it was the anniversary of Endgame just recently. Did you catch that?
Oh, right. And once again, like, they were shitting on the directors because they said something that pissed people off or something.
Oh, yeah. The Wachowski, not the Wachowski.
The Russos.
The Russos. Yeah. The other brothers, or formerly brothers, said the Marvel's failing because of these kids nowadays, and the entire world just fucking lost their shit.
Right.
At any rate, man, speaking of kids, are we going to get in? The main topic. It's a hefty topic, right? It's a large topic. It's a fat Cheetos eating, hasn't been outside, depressed.
It is absolutely depressing, and it is like on the verge of a civil war because this topic rips families apart. And so
right.
Me and one of my beloved siblings that I love dearly fight to the bloody death when this topic comes up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not fun like arguing about Trump. Trump is fun. You know why? I love triggering liberals, and all I have to do
Right.
is say Trump, and it just shows how weak and pathetic they are. You say Trump, and then they start weeping, or they start foaming at the mouth. But he's gonna take democracy away. He didn't when he was president before, so why would he now?
Right.
But anyway, that's not here nor here. Our topic tonight, of course, is protesting and protesters and everything that happened over the weekend.
Yes.
Or week, right?
So, I mean, let's lay the backdrop here. You call January 6th Liberation Day, right? Is that what you call it?
So at some point, certainly, I have definitely said that on this show and gleefully laughed.
Play the video. 80 cuts of you.
No, I have said that, and I'm gonna be real with you right now. This is not me backtracking. I do say it to be funny, and I do say it to trigger liberals.
Right.
And the truth is, my original take, which I definitely said on Fanboy Modeling School when it happened around that time, is it is, once again, like all these protests, a protest that got out of hand, turned into a riot. And I even said, if I was that black security guard, I remember watching on TV, there's a black security guard, and he pulls out his gun, and down the hall are angry MAGAs coming from away from him. And he's like, stop. And he doesn't fire. And I remember thinking, that poor man is dead.
Oh, you're talking about the cop? Yeah.
And I would have absolutely fired. I would have unloaded my gun on those people.
Right. He didn't pull out his gun. He pulled out his billy club, and he was like shooing them on to follow him to get him away from the
right. But I'm saying I would have pulled triggers. But what I'm saying, it is absolute. This is my true feeling. Right. It is a protest that got completely out of hand, and they started acting like damn fools.
Right.
And if they had a point, here's what it is: if they had a point about something, it got lost in the fact of their criminality.
Right. Yo, shout out to everyone over on IG. I just got a bunch of comments coming through all at once. That was weird. My boy,
Lo-Fi, what up?
DKD is laughing his ass off. Catwoman has to be a sex symbol. Can't change that.
You cannot cast a woman with a flat booty to be Catwoman. It doesn't make any fucking sense. If someone has a nice ass, it's Catwoman.
The last year you could go to Bohemian Grove without Alex Jones showing up. Wife works at UT. Look orchestrated from the videos I've seen. Okay.
Yeah, Lo-Fi waifu in the house finally made it to a stream. We love you, and we're happy you're here. Thank you.
So protests that got out of hand, right? You know, and I can respect you for being intellectually honest about that, man. I do love it when the right panders to the notion of it was just a bunch of grandmas walking around doing a day tour. And then actually, there's a woman getting shot by the
there's a more dangerous narrative that I think is just kind of it's a bit much, where they say they're heroes.
Oh,
they're heroes, and I'm like, okay, that is not heroic behavior. Okay, so they went to trash a place. They acted like animals, and here's what I'm saying. This is why I don't like protesting. Right. I believe in the right to protest, but it always gets out of hand. Someone's always smashing some shit up.
Yeah, you gotta break some shit. You gotta break some shit, man.
And so I pretend, for a while there, I have pretended that like Jan Sixers are like heroes. I don't really think they're heroes.
No, okay. So comparatively, looking at January 6th, what I love to call Insurrection Day, the party, right?
Right.
And then looking at what was going on in our own backyard at Columbia University.
Damn it. And you know what's funny? Columbia University in New York, for those who know New York, I despise New York. Now, I'm from New York, particularly Brooklyn. But I got to say, in terms of the crap, the pile of shit-stained rocks that Manhattan is, Columbia University is normally it's like the Garden of Eden hidden in this place, right?
Right.
It's like a great place to like eat your lunch, hang out. It's beautiful. It's nice. It's utopic.
Wow, not the feeling I had whenever we were hanging out there. Whenever we were at Columbia, it was like Sunday. I'm sobering up. It's the end of the weekend. I always feel like it's a Sunday, the come down Sunday. Whenever I'm on that campus, man, it's just people fucking walking around in khakis and fucking loafers and knotted.
Yeah, they're white and carefree. They are white and carefree, and I'm all about it. But now these these shameful protesters had to destroy it. These protesters are taking dumps in the trees,
Right.
and they're leaving their monster cans all over the place.
Monster cans. So these peaceful protesters, lawfully took over an entire building. Huh?
and they took 3 janitors hostage.
They didn't take them hostage. They just held them at work a little bit longer than they wanted to be there.
I do love that is what some of the people were saying. They're like, we didn't take them hostages. And they're like, the janitors are saying they were taken hostage. They're like, no. She kept going. The girl kept saying, false narrative. And not explaining it. False narrative. If you run up in a building and you lock it and you don't allow people to leave and you have like crowbars in your hand,
right?
You're waving them around. That's a fucking hostage.
No, they were using the crowbars to open doors to let people in. That's where you're mixed up about that, bro. They were trying to. So comparatively, how is this different than when all those beautiful white folks with afros took over? Was it Columbia or another college campus back in the late 60s, early 70s? Obviously, that famous picture of the white guy with the John Rogers fro hanging out the window. How is this different, Mantis?
Well, here's what I'm saying. I cannot comment on like the hippies of the 60s and what they did because obviously I may be old. I'm not that old. Right. But I don't know what they were about. I know that I don't like hippies. They're dirty and they need to shower once in a while. And so I can only imagine how stinky Columbia's quad is now. So I don't know. So here's one thing that I thought was interesting. Something Gold. What's his name? Gold, the video game player.
The hell are you on about?
Anyway, whoever the streamer is, this one streamer got into Asmongold. He said he was in an argument on Twitter with somebody, and somebody said he was against protesters, and somebody was like, "Well, protesting's good. Protesting gave blacks their civil rights," and then he argued, "No, that was happening anyway. There just happened to be protests." And so, what are our thoughts on this?
Wait, run it back, because sometimes when people string together stupid concepts into what they think is a coherent thought, not you. He said, what exactly?
He said, he was like, first thing he said is, he said, standing in front of cars did not get blacks their rights.
Okay.
And then afterwards, he said people may have been protesting at the time, but protesting is not what gave blacks their rights.
Okay, did he happen to say what he thinks gave black?
It's a tweet, so he didn't give any further. He didn't give any. It's never elaborate thoughts in tweets.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I would probably respond to that the same way when a small child with a booger comes up to me and asks me a question.
And just for you guys don't know about Asmongold. Asmongold is a guy, respect to his past mother and his family and all that stuff. His parents died. He inherited a lot of money and a house, and then he just spent his time streaming video games all the time, and that's how he got popular.
Right.
So,
and Asmongold is invested in the political landscape or the history of America, and what he's just an asshole
because he has Twitter. That's the age we live in. You have Twitter.
Oh yeah, my bad.
You're now a scholar. You're now, if you talk about COVID, you're a biologist. You're a biologist, right? If you talk about politics, you're a scholar of it. Everyone's a constitutional scholar,
right?
All of a sudden, because they have a Twitter account.
So I would think that was probably one of the most asinine things I've heard. Because then we have to go on to causality, cause and effect. So if there were no protest and they weren't protesting in regards to the treatment of African Americans pre-civil rights era movement, so that means African Americans had no reason to stand up for themselves to thusly force their freedom.
So I want to pitch an idea that's similar to his, but not fully his.
Okay, here we go.
So I actually think one of the successes of the African American civil rights movement was that their protests were mostly peaceful, and that the hippies who didn't win any of their arguments usually got violent.
Okay, So what do you qualify as mostly peaceful? The protesters were mostly peaceful.
Yes.
Is what you say. Not the
right.
police.
Obviously not the cops. The cops were busting skulls, of course. But
I would qualify that as a peaceful protest.
Trust me, when the news is saying the word peaceful, they mean the protesters and not the cops. The cops are exempt from any analysis on that.
Yeah. So
wait, hold on. Lo-Fi says, but I'm a hippie and I don't fit that stereotype, my guy. I don't. Lo-Fi, do you consider yourself a hippie? I never thought of you as a hippie.
Wait, but give it to me again, man. Give it to me again.
So what do you like? I feel that there was a lot of and you know, I could be wrong, and you know, if any listeners know better than me, I feel that like there was a lot of protesting for a lot of things in the 60s. And the hippies didn't win. The hippies lost. Corporations won. They control literally everything. Nowadays, if you have a protest, it's usually sponsored by Nike or Starbucks, right? Absolutely. We're more corporate culture than ever. People will tell you who's your favorite artist. They'll say someone corporate like Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was like Joni Mitchell, some bitch with a guitar, right? No, now it's these corporate big things. Corporations beat the hippies in every aspect. They lost in every way except for one: civil rights. Right?
Okay, but to Gold, whatever his name's point is, right? Yeah. I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around the tweet, right? Because it's like he's insinuating, or they, or it, whatever, is insinuating that this was going to happen without the use of protests or, you know, civil disobedience. But what evidence does
right? Where is the evidence?
Where is the evidence?
Where is the evidence? What is that?
Statement? Because it's a fact of the matter, man. If African Americans did not boycott the buses, were the buses on their way to desegregating?
Right. But also, remember, remember what that was.
Right.
It's like the person sat in the bus and wouldn't get up, or they'd have sit-ins in diners, right? They'd go and they'd sit in all the counters. No, they're like, we're not going to move. Nowadays, it's these freaking punks burning down colleges.
But I'm not conflating.
Right. But you see what I'm saying? How the protesting was different.
Yeah, but I'm responding to the asinine tweet that the freedom,
the
freedom was on its way. I can't get off that part.
I don't know his argument as to what brought civil rights about. I thought it was interesting that he had this take that he was
but comparatively, if you're talking about civil rights era protests and things of these nature, I would say that what they were protesting was in response to very clear and present danger, right? And the type of protests they were doing, the sit-ins and things of that nature, were the lighter side, or not even, let me not even use the lighter side. They were the kinder, gentler, softer philosophical approach of a people that were only a few inches away from going towards a more aggressive, let's say, side. Because as you had people like Martin Luther King advocating for nonviolent protests, you had people rightfully saying at the same time, hey, if a cop, which the police system was wildly corrupt back then, is threatening to do you any bodily harm, and in a legal sense, you should defend yourself at the cost of your freedom and your life. So that's that. It just never happened to us. Well, it did a few times, but it never went.
I mean, people were getting their heads cracked in. You know what I mean? Like, it got dark.
Some people would make the argument that, you know, maybe then when African Americans were allowed to carry guns in mass, we should have turned the guns on the dogs and the cops.
You realize that African Americans can still carry guns in mass, right?
Right, but let's talk about the revisionism of the gun laws once the Panthers came on the scene. Like once the Panthers came on,
I'm saying like it
no.
So no. You can carry. You can all.
Okay, and I'm glad you. I'm going to pull the video up for you. So there's a great video, and I think it's a Jubilee video of a state where you have the right to carry an assault rifle, and there are two instances of people carrying their assault rifles in a lawful manner walking down the street. And obviously it's a setup video, so you see a white guy walking down the street
with an assault rifle.
Yeah, and the cops pull like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah. Okay, you make sure you have a good one." And then the next shot of is a black man carrying his weapon the exact same way.
Oh, I'm sure they jumped on it.
You can say that, yeah, they have the right to, but is the response fair and balanced?
Right.
Well,
Lo-Fi says, honestly, though, I'm on the county youth advisory board where I'm living, and we're advocating for ourselves and everyone that needs to help with the problems that have been happening. One of the biggest problems is homelessness and those who struggle with mental illness, and those two and two together, unfortunately. Yeah, that's a huge one in America. And honestly, if the protests were for either of those things, I might be less of a jerk in this broadcast right now.
okay.
If they were like saying we need to get more we have a mental health crisis in America, we need to help our people, I would be like, yeah, we need to do that. If they were like, we have a homeless, and we actually do, we have a housing crisis in America. Housing is way too expensive. There are people who have like 2 jobs still can't afford apartments in their own cities.
Right.
It's totally disgusting. I would totally be for it. However, these protests are all about some sort of foreign bullshit.
Okay. Well, let's not mince words, man. Get to what really irks you about these protests. What is it that's really bothering you about what's going on in Columbia and the colleges across the campus? Yeah, everywhere. What's got you up in a tizzy?
Okay, so multiple things, but like, okay, I was arguing with someone who's pro anything goes for, they're pro anything goes for protesting except for January 6th.
Right. Okay.
They're fine when environmentalists, and here's the thing that I really hate is that at the end of the day, severe protesting, the only person it ever hurts, it's never a billionaire. It's never the person they're angry with, these commies or whatever that are angry with. It's always the working man. It's some guy on his way to his job at Taco Bell who can't drive down the road because some environmentalist assholes are on there, holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so, and so this particular protest, I feel that, as usual, like all things, in our society, it is overwhelmingly like affluent. Like basically it's rich, spoiled kids who don't know what adversity is.
Right.
Who is taking the words of, well, I'm going to say it, potential terrorists, as their crisis is sacrosanct, but the other side's crisis is BS.
Okay.
And so, like, for instance, have you heard Eric Adams going on about the agitators? The agitators.
Yes. The bad actors. Yes.
Right. And so these guys are not members of Columbia. So here's what it is. There seems to be evidence, maybe not, I wouldn't say evidence, but there seems to be a thread where people are pointing out, where did they all get these matching tents? Where do they get signs that every 6th sign is a repeating sign? Same phrase. Clearly, some other organization or something organized this. And then late in the game, when the protests were too peaceful, these agitators came in, and these agitators would do things like, and they were non-Columbian students, but they were getting involved, and they would organize students to stop Jewish students from crossing the quad.
What?
And they are supposedly these people, these non-Columbian people, Colombian people, are supposedly the ones who actually egged everyone on to attacking the Hamilton building and occupying it, and they're the ones who brought the chains.
Okay.
And so, who do we think? Who do we think? Who can we speculate? Who are these agitators?
Enraged Burger King employees.
No, I would give them high fives if Burger King employees were standing up for themselves like this. No, they're foreign powers. They're usually.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Antifa.
Well, I didn't think about this, but all the ones who seem to be on camera so far seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, seem to be Middle Eastern, non-Americans. And so what it is the militarized, hyper-liberal college student is being radicalized by foreign powers.
Okay.
I mean, is that bizarre?
Okay, so let me choose my words carefully while adhering to the evidence-based thing. So, are you sure that these Middle Easterns aren't like American citizens? Like, how sure are you that they?
I'm not. You're right. I haven't seen the papers, but I want to see your papers. You're right. I can't prove that these guys
No,
are foreign.
when Mayor Eric Adams was saying agitators, I assumed the likely suspects that it was Antifa, the Hairy Armpit Brigade. They all joined up with the women from the women's rally, and they got together and they're like, "We're going to turn this up." That's who I thought they were talking about. I got to be honest with you, I did not think that it was foreign powers. Now, could I see a bunch of liberal Columbia students being radicalized by those type of external influences? Yes. Do I know that they were present? Obviously, I can't prove that. But let's just stop beating around the bush, man. This whole thing is because of what's going on the Gaza Strip. And it's what's going on between Israel and Palestine right now. And I found it extremely interesting to see the bias reporting on both sides of the aisle, liberal and conservative, in regards to this. Now, I want to remind those of you who are not old enough to remember that Fox News commentators on the right have always had a less than reputable, more leaning towards sketchy relationship in regards to their antagonizing of Israel. You don't have to dig too far on the Google machine, or even better, go to ChatGPT to see that in years past, conservatives have expressed concern about our involvement in that part of the world.
It's funny that it's switched.
Yeah,
this is really weird. Just like when you have to remind people, you're like, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and they're like, what? And you're like, yeah, the people who wanted to keep people in slavery were Democrats, and people are like, what? And somehow at some point it switched. And so here in our lifetime, we saw the parties switch on a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when did this happen?
And even more interesting. So I'm sure you've seen the footage of the young men who were trying to get, stop the protesters, rioters, and they were trying to get past the gates, and they were not, thank God, not forcibly harmed or anything like that, but they weren't allowed to enter. And then they interviewed Fox News or some other news outlet, interviewed a young man, and they asked him his feelings about what was going on. And he was of, I'll say Jewish descent, and he has family in Israel. And he was like, it's hard for me because there are people here protesting against the state of Israel existing who I recently had dinner with, who I'm friends with, and now it kind of pains me to see the situation. And here we find ourselves back in the conversation we had about last week, which is that our allyship and involvement in other countries, right, and in their affairs and what's going on is splitting and dividing Americans. But then it brings us to another conversation. Is your allegiance to America entirely contingent upon its allegiance to Israel?
Right. I'm saying, obviously that's not a healthy thought process to go by, but I will tell you this. In high school, I dated a Jewess. And she was Israeli. And she would spend her summers in Israel, and I visited her once, and I was actually learning some Hebrew and all these things like that. And I will tell you that her parents, neither of them were born in Israel. You know why?
Why?
That generation, none of them were born in Israel, because Israel didn't exist until 1947. Right. And so what it is she's literally first generation Israeli, and everyone else is from other places. Right. And so, however, what the horrible argument when somebody says a country shouldn't exist, Native Americans, or not all, I'm sorry, but some would say that about America. Others will say that about Israel. What do you do about the generation of kids who were born and raised there?
It's an interesting.
They should go drown in the ocean.
So it's an interesting thing, man. And it's like, so this is where the conversation is not complicated for me, right? Because it's just like I'm just going to remain consistent, man. Occupying forces, right? Occupying forces, very uncomfortable term to say. Occupying forces. Are people innocent if they've benefited from the occupying society of which they are part of?
So I'm gonna go on to this in terms of one step of occupying, right? And so it comes down to this, and there's the reason why the UN and the world acknowledges it is because there's no other logical way, and so it's called the right of conquest.
Right.
And so ultimately, at the end of the day, the person who controls an area is the person who can militaristically control an area.
Right.
So if you have rocks and stones and they have tanks and planes, this is not your country. It's whoever can take it.
Right.
Right. And I'm sorry. This sounds super insensitive, but this is just the way of the world. And what it is what I'm arguing is being comfortable about the way the world works and not having a hissy fit and being like, I wish the world was different. You're right. I wish we all gave each other hugs and we loved each other and we talked about puppies and rainbows and we had no problems and all our food was sugary and we never gained weight. That would be fucking great.
Right.
But I live in the real world. What is the alternative that people are talking about? Are people saying that they're saying that all of Israel should be smashed and it should be given to a population that has not only far lesser people, but have less education, less technology, and less things to run that country? Does that make any sense?
So if we use that same line of scrutiny, though, remember I took you to this place last week in regards to the American Revolution, right? You accept the world as it is, then should the forefathers have accepted the world as it is or as it were?
They militarily took over their country.
And that brings me to this point. If there's a military response that, by your logic, is adequate enough to force them out, then that's just the way of the world.
Yes, that is the way of the world. I would be like, oh, sucks to be you. However, and once again, I'm saying this because I don't have skin in the game. I am neither Palestinian nor Jewish, so obviously it's easy for me to say. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's unrealistic that the Palestinians even have allies strong enough to help them win over that landmass.
Remember, at one point, the unorganized farmers that occupied this land, right, with a few scholarly men, were able to galvanize an entire colony of people, colonies of people.
No, you're right, and that happens all the time. I mean, that happened in multiple countries that I'm related to, both Cuba and Haiti. Right. That actually happened with the underdog one, right?
Yeah.
And another funny thing is, it's like in Godfather 2. You seen it?
Yeah, of course.
I love it where he's hanging out in a car, he's waiting, and he sees some guy run with a bomb and blow up some shit, and he's like, What is that? And they're like, they're explaining it, and he's like, who pays these revolutionaries? And they're like, nobody pays them. And he's like, they fight in the streets for free? And they're like, yeah, they believe in it. He's like, oh, they're gonna win. Because no one even pays them, and they're willing to do that. And so that is true. And honestly, Palestinians, they're pretty pissed. So I'm they might have a really good fight in them. Wow, this conversation's gone crazy. I love it.
But how does that translate into American rich students taking over their campuses and schools? So here's how, in my estimation, it translates. So one young lady of Asian descent, I was watching the news the other day, and she said, we have the right to know where our money is going. And this is just a small microcosm of the larger conversation that's happening in America. We have the right to know where our money is going, where our tax dollars are going. And she was alluding to the argument that Columbia, for instance, is in bed with Israel. And as an institution of higher learning, it should not be in bed with any country. It should be a neutral ground for learning and education. That argument is fine and dandy until it comes to something that hits close to home on her side of the table, right? But that's the argument that these kids are making, is that money from Columbia is going directly into the pockets of Israel, and that Columbia needs to diverge, and all these other universities need to diverge from their relationship with Israel. And these higher institutions responded, no, we're not going to do that.
Here's another, you know what another crazy thing about protesting is? It's such a communist idea to be a protester, particularly when it comes to money, right? Because what it is Colombia probably has a profitable relationship with Israel, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I don't claim to know. But it's probably about money at the end of the day. And what the students who are going there are saying is, they're like, we want you to go broke because we have morals. And in the real world, nobody goes broke for morals. That's just nonsense.
So, I mean,
that's part of the fairy tale talk I was talking about earlier.
And here's the thing, though, man. Now let's be consistent. We on the other side would say that colleges should be dedicated to education, right? Institutions of learning. Is that argument not applicable here? So let's say if some left-leaning psychopath takes the podium and then Columbia starts giving money to all type of leftist organizations and things of that nature, people are going to be on their microphones screaming from the top of YouTube that Columbia has no right to tell anyone how to live their life, except for when it comes to this topic.
Well, I'll tell you, this is why I'm not a credentialist, and I've accused you of being a credentialist. I'm like, a degree doesn't mean shit. Because at the end of the day,
Right.
it's true if you go to a CUNY or a SUNY, for those not in New York State, that's City University of New York or State University of New York, where, it's cheap tuition for people who live there, and, you're there to get an education. All the other colleges like Columbia are private. And,
Right.
and I learned this many years ago that I'm like, the reason why there are stupid majors in the world is because the private institution was like, well, we need to give majors that kids want, like gender studies and third world intersectional computer hacking, complaining and protesting. And
Right.
like, that's a major or something like that. And when when people are like, why do people have such crazy majors? Why don't they have one that you get a job with? It's because that's actually the lie of education. The
Right.
lie is that you're going to do something with it. The truth is they're just selling you some bullshit. They
Right.
just want your money for 4 years. They don't care if you get a job. They don't care if you make something. They don't care if you make the world a better place. Maybe back in the day that was what it is, but nowadays these things are as much whores as the MCU,
Right.
or any of these companies, right?
No, I get what you're saying, but still, in the world of social commentary, when Columbia endorses some crazy left-leaning thing, it says they're not going to diverge from that. People get wildly upset. Are we overreacting to people reacting to their school, but on the left side of the conversation? Do you get what I'm saying, man? Like this. So the only difference between these two topics is, as of yet, right now, to this day that I'm aware of, no right-leaning group has taken over a school in response to
Right.
gender studies.
I
Okay, so
love to point that out. The revolutionary acts are usually leftist.
All right, so that's your grimace with the topic, is the fact that they forcibly took over the school, not that.
So, for instance, that argument I was having, that the spirited debate with my loving sibling, who or whatever, I was saying, well, this protest, and this was before they took over the building, but when they were doing the protest in the quad, I was like, they're coming dangerously close to graduation.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's horrible. And they're like, what? They were like, whatever. They're making a point. They're trying to liberate or whatever. And I was like, well, you know how many other students are not involved in this protest, but they want to graduate? They paid all this money. They worked hard for all these years. Some of these kids are not rich kids. We make fun of Columbia because they're usually rich kids. Some of them are guys who work, like immigrants who work 3 different jobs to get this education. Who are the protesters? Where do they get the right to take the graduation day away from those hardworking students?
Okay.
And so, what do I get? What is my response? Well, whatever. The protesters need to make a point. There is no logical thought as to why they're allowed to do this. I think people are just like, it's cool. It's cool to destroy. It's cool to maim. F Columbia. F paying bills. Columbia has to pay bills. They're not going to divest from anything.
So I think, to your point, here's what happens, man. And it's funny that this conversation started off with what it always starts off when it comes to civil disobedience and civil unrest and protests. Somehow this conversation always lands back in the backyard of the civil rights era movement, right? It's either for or against, right? Someone's trying to use it to discredit what was done, or someone's trying to embolden their own point by bringing up the civil rights movement. Here's the difference between that and this, right? When those black people took to the streets to protest the mistreatment that they were receiving within their own country, they did so in a way that was putting their lives at risk, right? When the riots happened in Chicago after the death of Martin Luther King, that was in response to what happened, and who was impacted by that the most? The people within our own community, because, we burned down our own communities. And just a point of history. Don't get mad at me for saying it. In response to this, taking over the school, shutting it down, I would say this is a complete waste of time because it's not going to change anything. And if you listen closely, that's my stance on it. What you've done is given up the moral high ground in this social conversation, and now it becomes about the damage, right, to the property. It becomes about the collateral damage. Students who aren't involved in this conversation one way or another being robbed of their opportunity after working so hard to graduate from Columbia, after working hard to get in there. In actuality, what should have happened was it should have been protests. You have to be ready. Here it is. Here's the kicker. I want you left-leaning people to really to chomp on this. You want to latch on the civil rights movement era protests?
They love doing that.
You have to be willing to take those civil rights era ass whoopings too.
And that's the craziest thing. That was kind of my point earlier, that I was pointing out that during the civil rights movement, the protests were more peaceful, but the cops responded more bloodily, right? There's more blood and damage. They were cracking skulls for having to sit in, right?
Right.
Now these kids are completely wild. Here's what it is. In the defense of the kids, though, it's not just them. Society in general has gotten more wild. Politics,
absolutely.
wars, news, everything is wild. So, but here's what I'm saying. The protests are far more wild, and the cops are more gentle. Like, these kids are kidnapping people.
Yes. Let's get to it. Let's get to that right there. Let's get to that right there, bro. The reason why I stand so firmly when people make this comparison, and I have friends that will try to pull this okey doke on me, it always comes to this weird point in the conversation. Well, this is why the civil rights movement was dangerous. No, motherfucker. Don't conflate these two topics. Those people, I have people who go there all the time. And here's the difference between the two, man. Those people were willing to die for their beliefs and for their rights. And being willing to die meant they committed to non-violent protest in a time where the system was overtly violent towards them.
Did you see that clip when the cops finally decided to come into Hamilton House over in Columbia, and they're breaking down the door? And there's on that main door, there's glass, obviously. And one of the kids goes, "I want to go home now. It's finals. I want to go home." And the cop says, "You've lost your chance to go home." And they break in the door.
No, I will.
But that's how scared these kids aren't willing to lose anything.
No. But I will say this, man. We almost saw a little bit of return to that old police brutality.
I'm not gonna lie. I was hoping that they would bust some skulls of the Billy Club.
Whoa! Do you remember right after George Floyd died, and the police in New York were marching down the street? And some young, frail white girl jumped down. She's like, "Hey, man, this is wrong!" And the cop just pushed her. And I was like, "Oh shit, the cops are ready to go there again." Or where they pushed that old white man down in like Buffalo because I was like, "Oh man, the cops are getting there." And that is when we'll see if your metal is truly forged of something great. And then you can include yourself in civil rights conversations.
Right.
And so you're willing to sit down and not only take an ass whooping from the cops, but hell, the general population eating at the diner.
right. And they here's what it is. They think of them. They're gonna brag. They're like, "I was arrested in a blah 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 protest." They had kids clubs on when they arrested you. They made sure everything was delicate and nice when they led them into the paddy wagon.
But here's the crazy thing about this whole situation, man. And I was talking to a family member that shall remain nameless, but this person is near and dear to me. We were talking about the attachment that so many, I don't want to just say African Americans, so I'll say black people have to this situation going on in the Gaza Strip and the protests, and why you see so many black people present at these rallies, or you see some at all, which is that, okay, so put your mature hats on and let's just deal with what I'm saying versus what you think I'm hearing. A lot of black people have attached themselves to this because, and this is the term my family member used, oppressed people recognized oppressed people. Now, this is where the conversation gets weird. It gets uncomfortable because then it's almost like, you got to deal with some stuff. Why would so many blacks be attracted to a pro-Palestinian, anti-genocidal war in the Gaza Strip, in your estimation?
They're bored. That's literally the only answer. They are bored because they got nothing else to fucking complain about. Because honestly, it is totally ridiculous. And here's what I have my problem with the world, right? This generalization of the world is that all of a sudden, because October 7th happened, everyone suddenly is self-righteous about what's going on in Gaza. Gaza has been going on longer than I have been alive, probably by 2 or 3 times my age, right? It has been going on forever. Where the fuck were your issues 2 or 3 years ago? Where the fuck do these people care about the kids in Congo? Where do they care about kids in sweatshops in China who are going blind for 17 cents a day to make our iPhones? Where is all the rage for everything that's happening in this fucking world? Men and women and children are murdered mercilessly in droves every fucking day. Where the fuck are any of these people and their rage and their protests? Why is this the protest you fucking decide? Because it's fake. None of these people, this is a virtue signal. You want to brag to your friends that you had a protest and you're like, oh, the cops dragged me away. I went in a paddy wagon. Look at that. These rich Colombian kids are going to fucking live their lives. They're never going to have any bad adverse issues about this. And they're going to ignore all the other atrocities that happen on a daily friggin' basis. So next time some sort of pro-Palestinian's like, yo, let's free Palestine. Honestly, I'm not going to say on this mic what I'm going to do to them, but I would love to run into one. Because they're fakers. They're fakers. Go help somewhere. A mother is being beaten to death in front of her children in some third world country. Go fucking help her.
Or here's something you could do. You can burn your Nikes.
What?
Did I say that? Did I say that out loud?
You did just say that. What do you mean burn my Nikes?
Listen, I'm just going to throw this out there. And if a hit dog hollers, if you are the type of person that flies a banner that impoverished people, oppressed people, recognize oppressed people, I want you to take your Nikes, your Reeboks, that phone that you may be watching this on, burn those clothes, smash that phone.
Yeah.
Smash it. Go pick up your computer, chuck that out the window.
Yeah, all that shit was made from oppressed people on stolen land. Oh my God, don't even get me started on stolen land complaints. It's endless.
Well, no, hey man, so the stolen land thing, it is what it is, man. Like, again, I'm sorry, like you just got to deal with the argument as it is, and it's like there's no real logical response you can say to anyone that lives on a reservation in regards to if they're not getting that good casino money. You just can't.
Here's my issue with stolen land complaints, right? So I'll give you an example, and I actually really love this movie. I think I told you that I saw Late Night with the Devil the other night. I saw Civil War, but I saw Late Night with the Devil, and I love it that everyone's kind of like, not everyone, but a bunch of people are boycotting it because they use AI art in it. Very little, very super little. You won't even notice it. And they're like, boycott it. It's all fucked up. The people who made it are so liberal and such, bleeding hearts. They care so much. Do you know what the first thing in the credits was?
What?
What would you guess would be after a movie's made? What do you think the first acknowledgement is?
We want to acknowledge all the impoverished and oppressed people around the world.
It was the acknowledgement that the studio that it was made was originally belonged to this Native American tribe. And they say that at the beginning before they name any actors or directors or anything. Here's the thing. Did they hire any Native Americans to work on it? No. Did they give money to those people or that tribe? No. They just did a pointless fucking blurb at the start of their credits.
Bro, shut your fucking face, bro. Listen, man, I was knee deep in Black Lives Matter. I made my IG shit the dark spot.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the equivalent to people being, I put a black box on my IG. I let my IG likes go down that week.
Yeah, but you know what? I have to be honest about this. I've seen people on the right take the same type of stance. I had an argument once with a good friend of mine in regards to social media and protesting, or at least espousing your beliefs on social media. And they're like, "This is how I contribute." I'm like, "What are you contributing exactly?"
Right, what do they contribute?
You know, their commentary was how they contributed, like by critiquing these things publicly. This is how I contribute. I'm like, but you do it under a fake account.
But also they do it for clout.
No, but this wasn't even clout. Just hear me on that. That's where we're at. This person's social commentary.
Oh, they're not. It's not even. It's not like the Fat Mantis. It's like not even an alias. It's like just a fake ass
fake name.
They're just not being real. Okay. Whoa. Oh my goodness.
And I see this from the right and the left. I agree with everything you just said, man. Where was your outrage for these things? And in fact, get outraged and stay outraged and respond in the only way that a lot of people do actually have any power is with your dollars, right? I heard the most amazing conversation the other day between Jordan Peterson and Destiny, the streamer, right? And it was in regards to many different topics, the social wars and things of that nature. But then eventually it landed on the environmental conversation, right? And Jordan Peterson, in the way that he usually does, he goes incoherent and then suddenly snaps back into being extremely coherent. And then you realize you're not just talking to some crazy person, you're talking to a very, very educated man,
very smart guy, who sometimes a little emotional, but
spends hours poring over research and his free time for his own enjoyment, right?
He's so well read. He can just pull shit out. He's just like, I believe that was on page 298 of the.
And he's talking to Destiny. He's like, here's the truth, Destiny. The rare metals and the things that we use to make these environmentally safe products that you want us all to consume actually do more damage to the earth mining for these things than they do have a benefit for it. So when those resources run dry, we've not improved anything. We've only sunk the world into more of a. And I thought it was a well-laid argument. I'll be right back.
I feel you. It's in our comments. Rogue Radio stopped by. Thank you so much. We love you, Rogue. Always a good pleasure. Lo-Fi says, honestly, I don't understand the concept. Unfortunately, money is poorly controlled in the world. The amount of countries that are in debt to each other. Yeah, money in general. It's meant to be a complicated thing that really demoralizes, but also just like it's supposed to confuse people, so only the money masters rule it. And then Lo-Fi says, take accountability for your actions. Absolutely. I love that. I love that statement. DT Tubbs, welcome. There was no media coverage, he states. What particularly, DT Tubbs? I know what you mean. There's a lot of things that they don't do media coverage of. Until it gets popularized, people don't know what anything is about. Absolutely. And then Yosagi taught me, says, I will do no such thing. She's not willing to do anything. She's not willing to change or anything like that.
She's not willing to throw out a pair of sneakers, burn it.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Most people will not make that change.
Right.
And so, it's funny. I got to really quickly, I got to tell you about my pushback against Earth Day.
Oh boy.
And so I got to tell you guys, I was born on Earth Day, and I got to tell you, I vote for Green Party regularly. So don't come at me in the comments. Okay. But I am a Sunday school teacher, and the moms got together and they had this idea, and they had this program designed where they wanted my kids to do a bunch of work in the name of Earth Day for not one Sunday school class, but two. And so I had to go talk to them, and I was like, this is a secular holiday. And they're like, yeah. Well, and I talked to them, and I did all these things, and I negotiated. Finally, I was like, we can sum this up in one class. There's no reason to take Bible study away from these kids so that because they already, and I said, they get inundated in their classrooms.
Right.
With Earth Day. Earth Day is all over the place. And of course, the activities that they wanted is the kids to, recycle this and do this and blah, blah, blah. And so finally, when it was Earth Day, I was talking to the kids and I was like, guys, you want to hear something really depressing? And they said, what? And, they're learning all this, all the Earth Day propaganda. And I said, did you know? And this is true. What I'm stating is a fact. I said that if every human on the Earth were to go carbon neutral and we weren't going to do any polluting or anything, we would only take 1% off of the damage that is being done to the earth every year, because 99% of it is done by corporations and factories and other things like that. And so even if you're the perfect recycler, and everyone is, it's only 1%. And the kids were like, really? And they got sad. I said, that's your Earth Day gift. Boom. Boom, baby. Boom. Because I tell it how it is.
Oh, I got to respond to something that Berlin that just asked. DT Dub, shout out. I have a question off topic. I just want to know, is Sam Shimon a good at teaching? If I'm thinking
who?
If I'm thinking of who Berlin is thinking of, who he's mentioning, then Berlin, you've waded into my side of the internet. And give me a second.
I'll tell you this. This is my idea if I were like to become president, and this is my Earth thing, and it sounds like I'm some anti-Earth Day or anti-recycling guy. Lo-Fi says recycle, reuse, reduce every day. I feel that, and here's what I'm saying. If I were to, I would create a working program, where if people want, like welfare and stuff, I would put them to work. Not hard. It wouldn't be super laborious, but I'm saying in the cities, to change regular energy to green energy, or to make roofs and build inside of the buildings green roofs and things. And we could slowly make this transition to everything will be green energy eventually.
Okay,
and you get welfare.
Responding to Berlin. Yeah, so Berlin, Sam is a gifted apologist. He is one of the most gifted apologists when it comes to engaging Islamic people from Islamic belief sets, right? He's very good at pointing out the inconsistencies of people who don't truly study the Quran or the Hadiths and don't know how to go to the full drawn out conclusion of these things. Is he a gifted teacher in what sense? Is he a gifted teacher like he should be a pastor? I don't think that's a calling that he feels for himself. Can you learn a lot of stuff from him? Yes. Are there problematic points in his own theology? I would say yes, right? And he's also having or had somewhat of a crisis of faith where he returned to or joined the Catholic belief system, which then it's like what's good for the goose is good for the gander in argumentation.
I'm sorry, who is this person? And just give us a quick.
Sam Shimon is a Christian apologist, right? And he's known on the internet, on YouTube, for debating Muslims. But he debates Muslims with the same fervor that Muslims typically debate well-meaning Christians who've only read the New Testament and they've never read the Old Testament. I'm sure you've engaged these type of Christians before. Right. The Old Testament scary, New Testament good, right? They cannot read the Bible in its totality in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
They go to a church where on Sundays there's a coffee shop in the church and the pastor wears tight jeans and has
right. He's like, it's all clever, man, and he says the spirit of light instead of God. I feel you.
So he's the type of guy that gets on the internet and he just gives it to Muslim callers. Like he does a stream from inside his house. He's done doing push-ups for the night. Literally, he'll be done doing push-ups or shadow boxing, and he just gets at Muslims about the Hadith, the Quran, their own Islamic illiteracy when it comes to their own belief structure. So to answer your question, Berlin, yes, he's a talented apologist, and you can learn a lot of things from him. I don't think he would consider himself a teaching pastor.
Okay. Well, there you go.
And when I say you waded into my side of the internet, this actually ties into what we're talking about, because this conversation doesn't only hit the political sphere, it also hits a lot of what's going on in Christianity in regards to our relationship to Israel, because a lot of this comes from eschatological belief structures and eschatology, and end times prophecy, things of that nature, and it's
like, it's complicated.
No, it really isn't, man. There is a lot of Israel worship within the American.
Right, that is complicated because it doesn't fully make sense if you really get down to it. And so I follow many pastors on YouTube, and some of them not only love the idea of Israel, some of them love the idea of Israel and can't wait for the apocalypse.
Yeah,
they're like Jesus is coming. They're like to take his bride, and like I know that one of their references. And I'm like, okay, it seems like you're getting a little hard off of this. Calm down.
So it's funny that you bring that up, man, because I used to have a debate with a friend about end time prophecy, man. And the person would be like, I just can't wait till the Lord comes back. And I'm like, hey, bro, just so you know, man, if you believe in that way that it sounds like you're espousing, a lot of things are going to happen to a lot of people you care about who don't share the same belief structure as you. If you really can't wait till the Lord comes, you should be out there doing what the Bible commands you to do, and that's save as many souls as possible. And none of that includes being on YouTube screaming at people. It does, however, involve, and oh shit, it's about to get crazy. You as a Christian might have to get out there and evangelize people.
Right. Right. And that's the thing. And you know, it's funny. I'm currently in a crisis of, I don't want to say it's faith. I don't have a crisis of faith. I know what my faith is. I know what my faith calls me to do. I'm at a crisis of, I guess, church or something like that. And so my pastor has left my church, right? And so we're trying to determine who our next youth leader is and who our next pastor is. And we're coming with all these ideas and saying all these things. And what it is that unfortunately, and I love her as a human, my former pastor has left some grains of not biblically correct ideas in the thing. And there's this strand of non-biblical belief. And the question is, do I stay? And I'm even on the council of people who's going to pick the next pastor. Do I stay and try to fight and try to make sure that a true pastor is picked? Or do I just bail and say, you know what? Have progressivism here. I'll just go to like a real Christian church.
So, that in itself is an interesting question, and I'm going to answer it, but I'm not telling you what to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, I feel like I would love to hear your opinion because it just seems easier to go to not fight and go away, but maybe that's the wrong move.
Yeah, and that is the answer right there. Like, you have an opportunity to say, "Hey, man, we've been out of alignment for so long. Why don't we just take our time, stop feeling, and start being discerning and really think about biblically who should lead and pastor us for the next foreseeable future." Like, and that is your opportunity. You can still bail if they give you pushback. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, my heart is clear, or as Paul said to the Ephesians, my hands are clean of the blood of you all. Like,
but yeah, I've been unfortunately, because I have no spiritual guide. I've been looking for YouTube, and I have certain YouTubers that are spot on great, and I'm listening to them and all these things. But unfortunately, the more I listen to people who are spiritually in line with me, the more I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What am I doing with the church that, like, for instance, what am I doing at a church where several of the moms think it's all right to demand that we have 2 days for Earth Day? Like, does that make any sense? Any?
Here's the thing to that, man. If you really want to throw a monkey wrench in that, man, there's always the biblical response. Like, you know what? I do believe in good stewardship over the gift which God has given us. I don't believe in, however, teaching people to worship the gift. And then you just leave them with that little gem.
Oh, be that guy. Be that guy. DT Dub says, I've been watching his stuff, Steve. He's great. He's been calling out Muslims and rabbis. I actually don't love these pastors who are trying to debate other faiths or other things. Like, one of the guys I like really normally look up to, he's constantly attacking the Mormons.
Oh, like, yeah.
He's ripping them up. And I think
yes.
between you and me and the internet, it's kind of easy to. When I heard about it, I realized I didn't even really understand what a Mormon was. Until I've been watching his thing. But after a while I was like, okay, you need to get off these Mormons, man. You need to move.
Bro, you haven't lived until you've seen a pastor by the name of Jeff Durbin. Go ahead and Google him, everyone. Jeff Durbin debates Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses. It gets bloody.
Oh yeah, the same pastor I'm talking about. I'm gonna say his name's Mike Winger. He also is like, he has a bunch of episodes on his YouTube channel about Jehovah's Witnesses and why they're confused.
Yeah. It gets bloody, man. But in regards to the whole protest and the school, the protests on the school and stuff. What's really weird about this, and I think you said this, and you did say it, and I didn't want to forget about it. A lot of these people who are involved in it and feel so passionate about it right now, and I'm going to give them feel so passionate about it right now, they really won't be this committed to this or the long haul of it, right? And it's interesting because countries where there have been a revolution and there may have been outside influences provoking or endorsing or supporting, however you want to use those words, these revolutions are no longer involved in these countries after the revolution. Take Haiti, for instance.
Right.
Take any country, take any of the many countries in Africa that
It's
have
a
had
fad, is what you're
revolutions.
saying.
Yes,
It probably is a fad.
They're not committed to the rebuilding of infrastructure, the rebuilding of the support it takes after a country has gone through a revolution to make sure that the revolutionaries don't become the dictators, which typically happens surprisingly in history.
That's weird that you say it's surprising. It's. I feel like it's not surprising at all. You take someone who's abused, you give them power, they're gonna abuse.
Yeah, look what the Brits did, man. They were on the Roman foot for many years.
Right. It's pretty much everybody. Dare I say it? It's Israel, right? And so it's not that. When for a second you think about it, you're like, wow, that's fucked up. And you're like, oh, it actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Hey, Berlin, I sent you someone that you should watch that you enjoy. I think you enjoy.
Did my previous question not make it? Is the Israel in today's times the same Israel talked about in the Bible?
Oh boy!
Oh, that is some deep theological stuff. And fanboy modeling schools usually we keep it light. We keep it dark and light, right? I like my coffee.
I'll wade into these waters because Berlin is really pushing us to take a stance, and he wants us to JK or whatever that is that you keep telling me about. Is Israel today Israel of the yesteryear? Well, let me ask you a question, Berlin. Is this the same nation that God made his original promises to? And if they are the same nation that God made his promises to, have they lived up to the promises that were given to them and their responsibilities? And you don't have to go to the New Testament, Berlin. Just go read the Old Testament, and the answers you seek are there. They're there.
Damn, we got real heavy. But the protesters are weird. Let's hope they go away. I know they're protesting in Washington Square Park in New York right now, and I don't know if you saw in L.A. or
is it free food at these protests? How do they stay hydrated? Like, what's the nutrients thing going on there?
Oh, did you see this? I love these clips. There's this girl, obviously from money, white girl, and she literally comes forward and she's like, we want a promise from the both the police and Columbia University that if we leave the Hamilton house to go get food on the food court, you're not going to arrest us or prevent us from returning. And then she said and when they were like, of course not, we're not going to do that. They're like, she's like, all I'm asking for is humanitarian aid. And like, humanitarian aid, like what? And you could tell this girl
paid for this meal card. I need to use it before the 30th if it doesn't roll over.
And this is how unserious these kids are. Someone has put them up to it. Obviously, there is this idea of funding protesters.
Right.
Certain organizations, companies, whatever, will be like, it's in our favor to get this protest going. Well, right now, I got to say, politically in America, the protests are making Democrats look like chumps.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Honestly, the fact that President Biden can't get control of his young Democrats, they're like against him now. That's crazy.
You know, it's going to be really, really interesting, man. Pretty soon, whether you like it or not, Trump and Joe Biden are going to be on the debate stage with each other.
I can't wait.
We should stream the debates live this year. We always talk about doing it, but we should
absolutely should. Lo-Fi says, fight for what you believe in, man. Tiss. Hell yeah.
Yeah, don't I'm just asking for humanitarian aid. That might be
humanitarian aid. This is the audacity that these little protesters have.
Yo, do you think when they were doing the sit-ins at the diners or when they were boycotting or Selma that they said, all we want to know is, will y'all not beat our ass while we make it over to the Sanders?
And you know what it is? I want to give a little shout out to the NYPD for raiding Hamilton House and not beating anyone's asses. There's no reports of any brutality. They were gentle with these little fuckers.
How'd they get him out? Did they hug him out of there, or what happened?
Well, the news keeps having images of them, like, because these kids, like, the kids didn't, but supposedly the aggravators brought like these heavy duty chains to put around the doors, and they had a buzzsaw or whatever on cutting them down and stuff like that. And so they did it without having to billy club people's faces. So kudos to you, NYPD. But ultimately, my question for you.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the rights of protesting? And do you think it accomplishes things?
More often than not, most protests, unfortunately, don't have the desired effect that people want them to have. So, no, a lot of them don't accomplish anything because I don't think that there's an actual, what you've been going on about tonight, there's an actual commitment to the change. Because after the protests, I believe that we need to then rally to make sure that whatever changes that we protested for stay implemented, right? So that means we have to continue to be out there. We have to continue being committed to. That means not showing up to work. That means not showing up to school. That means not asking for humanity.
Right. If you're serious, you'll really cut them off.
Legally, obviously, they're allowed. A lot of institutions have found a way to skirt it by making what do they call it? The civil rights area or a portion of the campus where you're allowed to lawfully protest, which is like in the parking lot far removed from where
it's like in Arrested Development. Shit, Lindsay becomes a protester.
Yeah,
she goes to protest, and then they're like, and they put the military comes up, and they're like, we're taking you to the free speech zone, and they all get to the bus. They take them to the free speech zone is a giant cage. They get in the cage and then they lock it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, man. You got to be willing to get off the free speech zone. Yeah. Now, to your earlier point about who is impacted by this, man, I saw a great video once of some people protesting, and they shut down the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge. I want to say it is. And this dad, black guy, and he gets out his car. He's like, man, I got to go pick up my kids. And he basically gave him that warning and then got back in his car and started moving the car. And they're just like, get out of his way.
This is my point. It is the working man who gets affected by this. The billionaire doesn't care about traffic. He can take a helicopter. Right? So really, at the end of the day, when you're a protester and you're causing trouble, you're like, let's shut down a highway. It's working class people. And let me tell you, man, and you know what it's like, and I know what it's like. I've had many fucked up jobs in retail or fast food or whatever that barely pay the bills, but like that's what I'm doing at the time or whatever. I've done that for more of my life than I'd like to admit. And you have to admit that it's hard. It is hard to be in that position in life.
Yeah.
And for people to add on to rich college kids to add on to that complication is so effing infuriating.
Yeah.
Imagine you have to get to work and you're like, my boss is on my case when I'm late, and suddenly get shut down. And some people are like, free Palestine. You would lose your mind. I know I would.
But here's the thing. That is the desired response of the protesters. And that's one thing that I think maybe you're not looking at here. The civil unrest is to cause societal unrest. So by them protesting and agitating the working man then has to agitate his boss, who then has to agitate their boss. And this all turns into a level of frustration where, okay, is this something we need to take a look at? Because I can't get across the Brooklyn Bridge. And then that turns into pressure on the powers that be, which is, hey, what are you doing to quiet down that person that won't let me cross the bridge. So that's the desired goal. The desired goal
Yeah,
is
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is to create agitation where people then go, and that, to be honest, let's be super honest. The real protesters, they want their faces smashed. They want the police to overreact.
Yeah.
So because if that hits the news, people will then be like, these poor college kids.
Yeah.
They got their asses beat by some guinea cop. So and then public opinion shifts. And then everyone's on fucking Colombia's ass. Why don't you divest in Israel? Why don't you divest it? So obviously
comes some crazy cop from Staten Island, like, don't forget the Bev, chop cheese,
right?
The Bev,
jeez, forget about it. And he's smashing a rich kid's head in. And so it's all a fucked up game. It's the cousin of terrorism, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And trust me, here's what I'm saying, man. You must hate, activists or protesters. No, I believe in the right to protest.
Right.
I just don't believe you have the right to be a fool and f up a regular person's day about it. Like, if I was at one of my dead end jobs from back in the day. If I was on my way and some protesters came, I would lose my mind.
You know how many times I've had to get off the N train, the 2 train, the A train? I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's some people with a bunch of flags screaming.
Oh, God.
I'm like, what is happening? I got to get to work. I didn't do anything.
Usually only get off a train because the bums are acting wild. But, like, if it was protesters, forget about it. And that's what I'm saying. I would love to run into a protester. I'm not saying anything evil. I'm saying I would like to run into them in a dark alley where there are no cameras.
Would you have robbed the kids for their meal cards? Like, yeah, we'll absolutely let you go get
if I was one of those instigators, which they're probably Palestinians, they probably don't eat well, I would have. I would have guilt tripped them, because here's the fallacy of the woke thought.
Right.
You have some rich white kid who has a meal plan who's willing to protest and occupy a building for you. And then you're like, man, it must be nice to be so filled out from all the food you eat. There's no food in Palestine. And you're like, what, man? You want a meal? Here's my meal card. I'll be like, thanks, bro. And then you go and you buy for all your friends. You got the chicken cheese. You know what I'm saying? You got all these bags of chips. You got all the sodas and stuff like that. You come back 2 hours later, and then and the guy comes up to you, forget who he is, and he's like, yo, bro, my card. You're like, who are you? Oh, word. Yeah. And like, here, for some reason they said it was declined after a couple times of using it. And then if he gets mad, just be like, yo, I'm oppressed, B. I'm oppressed, the Israelis and shit. And they're like, you're right. I need to check my privilege.
Bro, I'm telling you, just describe the hustle back in the day, man. How many rich kids did we hang out with at NYU? And I'm just like,
it's a similar thing. I mean, we weren't Palestinians back then. But, these Palestinians have a good hustle right now.
Bro, you keep saying these Palestinians as if they're flying over here in droves.
So here's what it is. They are like evil taskmasters. So I noticed that the news is able to interview, like, in the different schools, at least one Palestinian. Like, in the Columbia one, it was like a very short female. And she was very angry. And she's the one Palestinian that they could fucking dig up. And like, she's in charge of basically because of oppression Olympics amongst the liberals, that they're like, well, she's a Palestinian, so she's above black women, cripples, trans people. She's a Palestinian right now. She's our queen, and everyone listens to her, right? And so they're there, and they're taking advantage. She is. I guarantee you, for how many colleges? I think it's like 20 or something colleges that are going on. There's at least twice that number, like 40. Say 40. Palestinians dining on kids' meal plans right now, laughing that they didn't get arrested, and the kid whose card they're using did.
Sleeping in their dorms without IDs.
Oh my god! During finals.
That's what we did. That's what we did.
It's the same hustle, just a different type. You rap different wrappings, right? But we're oppressed. We're minorities.
Right.
So white people have to do it. You have to give in, man. White guilt. White guilt will make people do the craziest shit. It's absurd.
Mantis, have you ever used white guilt to get laid by a moderately attractive?
Oh my god, absolutely. I'm just like, oh, I knew you'd check me because I'm a mulatto. And she'll be like, what? I'm like, yeah, I saw this rejection coming. It's my blackness that sickens you. And she's like, I get with black guys all the time. And I'm like, no, it's my half blackness. You look at me like some sort of freakish creature, whatever. And as I start to walk away, boom, it's done. Deal is sealed. Okay, deal is sealed. And so for other mulattoes listening to this podcast, do that. Do what I just said. Do what I just said. Bro, I said, bro, that's low-key racist. They said you guys are horrible.
Just out here reverse racisting people into fucking sex.
Well, I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. They created this universe themselves, right?
Right.
So we didn't tell them to have some sort of weird fetish about us and our culture. When people hear I'm half Haitian, they're like, oh my God, the things your mother must have seen. I was like, yeah, it's horrible back at my country.
No, give me some head.
I didn't tell these people to have this ridiculous, irrational reaction to me being Haitian. I didn't teach them that. I didn't train them to do that. They did that to themselves.
I'm just the benefactor of it. Oh man, I had a good time tonight, bro. Did you have fun?
I had so much fun. I knew talking about protesting would take like a vast majority of it. I mean, it's too interesting. It's like it's everywhere, and it really is like it's encompassing this place.
Yeah.
I hope we're done with it in the next couple of days. I hope people move on.
I'll tell you what I'm hoping, man. I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna watch X-Men '97. I'm hoping it's as good as you and Shaolin have said. I believe and trust you guys, especially when it comes to this type of stuff. And in regards to fanboy modeling school and our coverage of these things, we got to bring levity to this shit, man. Folks, if you're not laughing at the wildly inconsistent shit that's on the news, that's my secret, man. I'm always laughing. I'm always laughing now.
Yeah, I'm laughing too. Everything's a joke. Everything's a joke. We're here to be lighthearted.
Before we close out, I shared a list with you and Shaolin the other day, and I want to share it with everyone.
Please.
A list of things where I know I'm in the wrong conversation.
Oh, please share that list.
The other day, I was listening to a podcast, and it was commentary on the one and only Amanda Seales. And however you feel about her is how you feel about her. I actually don't have a problem with Amanda Seales. I just critique some of the points she makes and then leave it at that, right? Because I refuse to get into the song and dance that I hate black women and blah, blah, blah. You can't critique someone for saying something because she's a black woman or he's a black man or he's a white cisgendered mutant from the far, far galaxy of the Kree Empire. But terms that your boy Steve knows he's in a bad place, right? Bad place. If you use the following terms, I want you to know that my mind completely shuts off. And though I may be having a full and what seems like an impactful conversation with you, I am no longer present. I've left the chat. So
let's do this.
Number one, I want to share my truth. The minute you say some shit like that to me, I'm just like,
okay, so I'm gonna say something right now. So in the past, I've defended your truth, my truth. I've even used the term "my truth." I always believed in it in a lesser, extreme way, but I have now realized that people use it. You're right, to escape real truth. And so here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. What I mean, what I used to mean, and I don't use it anymore. Your truth, my truth, right? So, I'm supposed to pick you up. I drive up to the car. You come outside and you see me speed off.
Right.
Your truth is Mantis ditched me. What a prick. My truth is some other shit happened to me. Right? I was like, the police were after me. Some shit happened. I couldn't pick up my boy. It's a bad friend. That's what I meant to use it as. But people use it as like literally like
their truth.
Their truth.
Their personal reality. And then using it that way, their truth becomes indisputable because it's what they experienced.
And they don't think that it's arguable. You can't argue anything, even a fact.
No. Yeah. I really felt seen. So when someone says some shit like that, or I did not feel seen, or I felt seen, I'm out of the conversation. I'm out, bro. If your entire experience can be summed up in a term like I really felt seen, then you and I have no business with each other. Moving on to number.
Those are sensitive people. That's a sensitive people. Thank you. I really felt seen. Do you not feel seen normally? Like what is up with you, bro? Here's what I'm saying. Dudes should not be using it.
No. I really felt like I was seen by her.
Oh, fuck that. Fuck that.
Okay, next one. I'm trying to walk in the purpose the universe has for me. This shit really.
Well, that's the universe thing. And the universe is the hugest flag. It's the hugest flag against, if you're a sane person, aka a Christian, or so, I'll even say Abrahamic religion person, that like the universe is not separate from the Lord Jesus Christ. And so to try to accredit that it's this other thing.
Yeah.
And do you like Amy Schumer? I think most people hate Amy Schumer. But before she became super famous, she had a show called Inside Amy Schumer on Comedy Central. Hysterical. And they have this skit where Bill Maher, not Bill Maher.
Wait, is Amy Schumer the sexy, apathetic, dark-haired woman?
No.
Oh, Amy Schumer is the other one.
Is blonde and overweight. So they have a thing where not Mr. Wizard, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy appears and he's like, we have, after many years of research, we figured out what the universe is. Behold. And then they show a yoga class and it's two white women and the one girl's like, I really think the universe wants me to date this guy. She's like, you think? And he's like, people thought that the universe was a place to hold all the planets in the galaxies. But in truth, it's there just to guide white women.
Yo, and you know what the craziest part is? Whenever I say to a person, I'm like, so this vast amount of impersonal space in which other things are occupying the space, the universe has set out a purpose for you, which means everyone has a purpose. So let's talk about purpose for a second. Remember those poor bastards that died in that makeshift fucking submarine?
Right. Is that what the universe wanted for them?
That man would have said, the man who made the makeshift submarine was firmly planted that he was walking in his purpose.
Yo, his purpose was to drag other people to hell. A watery hell.
Okay, the next one is kind of a derivative.
Wait, hold on. Beck says I feel attacked. Oh, she wants to use these language. She's blonde, blue eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The next one is kind of derivative. I'm sorry. I'm in alignment with my purpose. This one really bothers me.
Really? This one, I'm kind of cool with.
I'm in alignment with my purpose. Why can't we say something that sounds a little less new agey and just say, I'm doing the things that I need to do to get me where I want to be?
I'm on the right track. Isn't that what they're saying?
I'm in alignment with my purpose. This is the type of person who says this after borrowing $40 from you for a long speech about why they need the $40. Right. Those are the type of people that use those terms, in my estimation, right? In my experience. Next, we have to activate on this as soon as we can. So notice that I'm not making a difference between quasi-spiritual talk and pseudo business jargon.
Right.
We have to activate on this as soon as possible.
What are they, Power Rangers? Activate! Pterodactyl! What does that fucking mean, activate?
Bro,
What is activating?
nothing kills me more than when I'm in a Zoom call with people and we start just throwing out meaningless terms like activating on something. We got to activate on this as soon as possible. Just like, what? I'm like, what is happening?
Lo-fi ads, my astrology says, or I'm locked in. Yo, those are obnoxious terms.
Oh my
Or my favorite, here's what I'm saying. Even though I say this, Mercury is in retrograde.
Oh,
when people
bro.
explain that for something, somebody's like at work, they're like, when people are serious about it, it's like, what? When someone's like, why didn't you do the report I asked you to do? They're like, Mercury is in retrograde. You're like, are you serious, bro?
They're casting spells on you. Get out of the room, man. The next one is this has to be done by end of business day, or the acronym that we all hate seeing in an email, EOBD. Bitch, just say I need to get it done before I leave today. Right. Please don't send me acronyms for things that make you sound more powerful than you actually are.
Right.
If I was the leader of a war clan, do you think I would say to my clan, we have to kill everyone in that village by the end of the business day?
So I'll tell you, on YouTube, I've been watching a lot of channels called In a Nutshell, and they do these animated things about evolution or stars or planets, and it's making me realize life was not meant to be like this.
No, not at all, man. This is how they defeated us, right? They defeated us with quasi-spiritualistic work terms. And
right. Then we're in cubicles or we're in retail stores and we're doing idiotic shit, bro, when we really should be on a horse raiding a village.
In the last month, because I have caught the same infectious bug, I have found myself saying things like, I'm trying to be intentional about what it is we're laying out here in this quarter.
What? You said that? You didn't say that.
I did that. I said that.
Who the fuck says that? That's like
trying to be intentional, right? We have to make sure we lock in. We got to lock in on this and make this a priority above everything else.
Just like Lo-Fi said, we got to lock in, make it a priority.
Bro, I can Zoom call with the best of them. Like, I'm just, and then lastly, we have to be synergistic.
That is just the worst word ever made. So synergy is already a hard word, and they add more complications to it, which just means teamwork. Work with your partner. Work with your partner is what they meant. When I was a little kid in math class, they're like, work with your partner.
Yeah.
Now they're like synergistic.
Yeah, go to the bathroom at the same time so some pervert doesn't grab you. Could you imagine on D-Day if any of these terms were used? Man, we're about to storm the beach. I need everyone to walk in their purpose.
Yeah, right? I know. Someone's like, I don't know. I feel like my purpose is drawing me the opposite way than the beach, Commander. The universe calls to me, you know? And once again, and so Lo-Fi pointed out the accountability. You have to be accountable for your own thing. Nowadays, what do we know about the protesters? What do we know about people who use the phrases you just brought up? Basically, that is the theme of today's thing. Yeah. These are all methods of getting out of accountability.
Yes. Yes.
It's not you, it's the universe. It's not you, it's your purpose. Right? I'm not ditching the war. My purpose and the universe are dragging me away from the war. Right? Fucking idiots.
It's been another episode of Fanboy Modeling School. The spiritualist community, Bex, I don't have anything against them. I just sometimes want to sit in Starbucks and not have to pretend like I'm writing a novel when someone comes in and sandals.
Bex, you know we like having fun on the spiritualist. You and your crystals and your incense. Nothing wrong with it. You do you, but I've had a great time on Fanboy. What about you, brother?
Had a great time, man. Folks, you know where to catch us, man.
Yo, Riz Radio, you can catch us on Live 365. That is where it's all happening. I'm midday. I do noon to 4 p.m. every weekday. And then my man Hold Up is Thursday nights and Sunday nights.
Yes,
currently.
Currently, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah, and so check us out. These are our radio shows. We're having a good time, and we're only getting better from there.
Y'all have a good night, man.
Till next time, ciao for now, bitches.
Peace.